And Hugo, welcome back into Bearded Sports. How are we doing this week?
I'm really well, thank you, mate. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Just a nice little show to go into. We had a big fight we're going to be talking about today. We are going to be sharing where we can find our fantasy league. We're still in the middle of game week 24, but what we're going to do is show you where you can find and join the league to any subscriber who wants to jump in. It took Hugh about 20 minutes. So the average subscriber, it should take about 2 to 3 minutes. Grandpa Hugh has trouble with the internet. And then we finally we will be going over which we'll probably start off first, which is with user comments. But so Hugh, good week, by the way.
I've had a cracking week. Yeah, thank you, mate. How was yours?
It was brilliant. I spent a lot of time researching for Burns and Usman, and to anybody who's watching this, just to make sure that we're on the same page, I've only been really getting into MMA for the last month. So, actually, let me take your partner's advice. There we go. We had a little. No, I wouldn't call her a viewer. Really,
she's
sadly.
A forced viewer.
It is a forced viewer for the occasional time that she does watch. But let me change the view here because people were not liking I was looking the other way, which is very good feedback. So shall we go into user comments while people are joining in from last week? We had quite the Jake Paul Askren video are quite popular. I think this is going to be a storyline that's going to be going strong for the next few weeks. But shall we jump into it's going to be a weekly thing that we do as long as we have comments, user comments.
Absolutely.
Oh, listen, just one more thing.
All right, subscriber comments. You haven't seen that before, by the way,
mate. No, and I have to confess, my internet speed is a little bit glitchy at the moment, so I didn't even see the whole thing. He just was about to turn around, and it froze for me, so I'll have to actually rewatch that.
We'll have to do it one more time.
Not now,
it's worth another watch.
Later.
It'll take a second. It's worth it.
Oh, listen, just one more thing.
Little Columbo.
Love
one
it.
More thing we're talking
it.
about last week. That's what I have to do.
Yeah.
So
great workshop.
I wanted to bring up some user comments because I've been replying to the comments, and there's been a lot of comments about the fight, the Jake Paul Askren fight. We've had more views on that video than we've had with any video we've produced on the other channel. And I wanted to get your take in on it because I'm giving thoughts and opinions on the Jake Paul Ben Askren fight. I'm not somebody who is a seasoned fight aficionado. So I wanted to go over the comments with you. There's been a few that I just wanted to get your take on. Have you read any of the comments so far that we've had? I think I pretty much. Yep. So I want to get you involved. So Vitaly Johnson Vitaly, I think if you are watching, you had the comments I want to get to towards the end. But Ben Askren should win this. Jake Paul has no fight experience whatsoever, which I think we largely agree with. I don't think the Nate Robinson fight is considered a fight, really.
Yeah, not like semi-professional, I suppose, because they were both unprofessional. But I think it's hard to disagree with that statement that you just made.
Yeah. So wrestling when he was younger, some MMA. He's been training boxing for 3 years, which I think Jake Paul has been training for quite a while. And then Vitaly said, "Look at Ben Askren's Wikipedia." Yeah, and look, Jake Paul is nothing compared to Ben Askren. Jake Paul is a true clown. I think everybody on the channel agrees that Jake Paul is a clown. I think that's common knowledge. Okay, so it's 4:10 a.m. right now. So this is the one I wanted to share. Emerald, thought I'd share your vision. The only reason I wanted to share this, Emerald, is in case it comes true. So I thought we could at least get it recorded. Emerald says, it's 4:10 a.m. right now. Just woke up from a weird dream. Saw Ben Askren using something demonic to try and win. I saw a clip of him predicting an interview would be delayed, and I heard December 6th. Then I saw some sheet and had a feeling judges would try and rig this fight, but someone will win second round KO. Weird, right? So, yeah, wow. Not saying this will happen. Just felt like I should share my odd story. Emerald, if that happens, I wanted to just get it timestamped and documented It's 1:40 p.m. in the UK. What's today? Is it the 14th? Is this Valentine's Day, mate?
14th. Yeah, it's Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day, Sean.
Happy Valentine's Day. Yep, this is very special. I've left my wife to be with you. So Vitaly Johnson. So this is where I had a bit of a back and forth with Vitaly. And Hugh, I just wanted to get your take because my thoughts to Vitaly are very much what I've been saying. And I just wanted to make sure you had a chance to reply to these comments as well. Ben Askren has been dealing with high-level boxers, far more experienced than Jake Paul for more than a decade. He has never been hurt by someone's punch and stand-up. How is a novice amateur with zero real fight experience going to take down a Hall of Fame mixed martial artist? I'm going to read through the comments so you can get the full take so we can hear you.
Yeah, please.
And then I said, so that's why I think it will just be a boring points win for Jake Paul. Askren is incredible at taking a punch from the best punchers, no doubt. No way he gets knocked out, but he had the option. He had the option and possessed the threat to tackle and take down boxers. He has none of this as an option in a strictly boxing setting. And Jake Paul, in my opinion, will only be worried about defending a jab, which I think is Askren's best weapon. I thought he had quite a good jab when I watched him fighting. And then he said, as part of the training, MMA fighters box with boxers. At Askren's level, this means high-level boxers. Paul is going to have trouble hitting Askren and is going to panic and gas. Askren will suffocate with shots, grapple him to exhaustion, and hit him with counterpunches and dirty boxing. There's nothing in Paul's meager. I guess it's in Paul's experience or something like that. And then, there's another. Okay. Yeah. So what are your thoughts on that, mate?
So far, I think that I really like what Vitaly's saying. I kind of echo a lot of his thoughts, really. He's probably stronger on the continuum than I am. And that you can't help but deny the fact that Jake Paul looks like he's more explosive and faster, which is an advantage. But hey, you could maybe make the same argument that Conor McGregor was versus Mayweather, and look how that turned out. So, and I think, again, Conor McGregor is far more seasoned in a squared circle than Jake Paul is. So, yeah, I think it's hard to disagree with what Vitaly's saying there, mate. But I don't think you discredited yourself or anything to that level. The point above, I can see where you're coming from. It's a fair argument. And yet again, we're just predicting the future here, and no one really knows. But I probably lean towards what Vitaly's saying here.
Yeah, and just to sort of make my final counter, if you are going to be watching this, Vitaly, I think the other thing to consider is Jake Paul is also going to be having some high level. He's minted. He's got money and he has the resource, and he is going to have boxers that are better than Ben Askren to spar with. So I think it's different than real world experience, and I'm not suggesting that sparring or his training is at all going to match the adrenaline fused exhaustion of a real fight. But I don't think it can be discounted that he has been training for 3 years and he would have been training with the best trainers, the best fighters.
Now, I'm going to take an assumption here because I don't know Vitaly or his background or anything, but what I would assume is that none of us, me, you, Vitaly, or anyone else commented on this, truly knows how much boxing Jake Paul has done and how much boxing Ben Askren has done. The things that are known in this is that we know that the chances are that Askren, over his accumulated 10 years, has probably been in more boxing situations than Jake Paul has, although we may not see that because it's not his main skill set. He's probably been in a situation where he's had more rounds per se, even though Jake Paul might have been working very hard in the last 3 years. I think to summarize this, we know a little bit more of what Askren's going to bring, and we don't with Jake Paul. And that's where the question mark comes in. We got a better idea. There's more comfort with knowing what Ben Askren has. Whilst Jake Paul, it's unknown. We don't know. So we're punting here, aren't we?
Yeah, and that's always going to be the case when you're going into these, and this is why the fight isn't necessarily a foregone conclusion, because it is perfectly feasible that Jake Paul has been taking, at some point over the last 3 years, has behind closed doors had a real fight with somebody. He may be, a savant when it comes to boxing, and he may represent himself well. It's also equally possible that Ben Askren comes out like gangbusters and has done nothing but work on his punching the last month or two. And the gap he has to close as far as becoming a boxer is going to be much smaller than the gap Jake Paul has to close in becoming a boxer to a degree. What Joe Rogan was saying, as one of the experts I've listened to, and I think Joe Rogan would be a fairly good resource to go to. I don't know if you would.
Oh, for sure.
and Joe Rogan, and it was Joe Rogan and
Brendan Schaub.
Brendan Schaub. They were saying when it comes to punching power, which Jake Paul has it in his tank to have hand speed, punching power.
Has. Yeah.
And Brendan Schaub was saying, it was Brendan Schaub actually, I think, that was saying is you either have it or you don't. And at this stage in Ben Askren's career, he's not necessarily going to find or learn how to find that hand speed for a knockout punch. I don't think anybody would argue that he's a knockout puncher in any way.
I agree.
Yeah. So that's comments. Shall we go on to the fight, my friend?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Well, we have our next intro. Oh, hold on. I didn't upload it. No, I didn't upload it. Oh,
was
man.
it gone?
I did
You
not
don't get to see it.
It's, you know what I did is I saved it. I can bring it up. 1 second.
Oh, it's totally
just
worth
bear
it,
with me because this is a recorded. I think it's worth it. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And I guess from my end, what we can talk about whilst I'm bringing this up, because I think I shared with you the video, so I can download it from our recent chat. Did you notice? Have you had a chance to look at the picks? By the way, the picks we're going to be going over in a bit.
Do you know what? I haven't looked at it online. I just remember off the top of my head roughly what I said and what's transpired, and I think I've had a decent week. When you compare everything
right now, so we're in a position right now, and I'm going to be coming back to the picks, but right now, yeah, I'm actually doing quite good with this multitasking. I've got it almost queued up.
Hey,
with this week, you are up you're 4-0 right now, and I'm 2-2. So you are winning, and that doesn't count the win you had on the Super Bowl as well, which I think is worth mentioning. You did very well. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So you're up early doors. It's early doors. But we will be going into, if you stick around, we will be showing with you. We're not going to be able to go into results yet because we're still in the middle of game week 24. So what we can do is I thought we would go through the picks for game week 24 or 25 this week, and we'd see which ones are which. If you could write down the ones that are differentiated from us, we'll talk about those this week.
Yeah, cool.
So let's go into our fight companion. That was it.
Hey, that was awesome.
A little, it's
Love it.
I haven't seen it on the big screen and how shit I cut around this, but it's all right. I think it's part of the charm.
Hey, perfect.
So
what is that? Mortal Kombat. What's the first one? What's
that's
that?
Mike Tyson's Punch Out. I'll give it to you one more time. I'll give it to you one more time just so we can see it.
Yeah. Let's see it again.
I spent a half hour. Yeah, I spent a half hour trying to find the Mortal Kombat font, and I couldn't get the font. I could match the color exactly. I couldn't match the font. But the Mike Tyson, if you've ever, and maybe have you ever played the original Mike Tyson's Punch Out?
When you said it, I was like, I've heard about it. I'm aware of it. I never played it.
Oh, it's brilliant. So this is where I think, because this is where I'm slightly older than you, and I think this is that Nintendo gap. I think you were a Sega generation, and I started right when Nintendo came out. And this was the first game I really got into. It's a brilliant game, and it's one that I would love to play again. And in Mike Tyson's Punch Out, if you've never watched it or never played it, you have your fights and you go through the different fighters to get to Mike Tyson ultimately. And in between every fight, you train, and it's you and your trainer, and that's what happens in between every fight before the next fight comes up. So those of you who have played Mike Tyson's Punch Out, that's going to be quite an enjoyable piece. I played it to another friend of mine who had played Mike Tyson's Punch Out, and he said it was spot on. So it's we have Usman Burns. I think what I want to do is let you lead the way because you are the expert on our resident expert on the fight companion. So what did you think?
Yeah, great fight. So I'll put that right out there. Really great fight, full of action. I knew from the get-go that Burns was going to put it down. Like he wasn't going to hold back. And I think in many ways it was part of his downfall, which he admitted in the post-fight press conference, which was that he got a little bit excited when he floored him. So he knocked he kind of got Usman down to his knee, which I can't remember the last time I see it. It doesn't happen very often. No. And he's got a granite chin. So he floored him, and I think he got a bit excited. He blew his load a little bit, and then Usman settled down. Usman just played it so well. I don't know if you picked this up, Sean, but when he got hurt, Gilbert went to his back. And what a lot of people do, if you're good at standing up, you'll say, get up. But obviously, and if in this context, because he was still hurt, he kept him down. Wasn't really doing much, but just kept him down just to get his recovery and get his vision back and get his breath back. But I thought Burns did really well. That like another fight would be interesting to see, especially with Burns going in a little bit more calculated, although still pressing the action. But I think one of the highlights was Usman's jab. It looked so strong from the get-go. He's got a reach advantage over him.
He does.
His new training camp with Trevor Whitman is a boxing coach, and again, he would have only been improving that. So Kamaru, what I liked as well, we saw some leg kicks and we saw a side kick. You don't see that. Usman, what he would tend to do, Sean, is he'll stand up like that with Kobe Covington. He stood up. Or he'll, like with Woodley, he'll grab you and he's going to ragdoll you for 5 rounds. Now, he doesn't want to play that game with Burns because Burns was like, yeah, come and grab a hold of me because I'll rip your arm off. So it was mainly a stand-up affair, which is what I kind of expected. But Burns is, Joe summed it up beautifully. Burns is just, he's faster and he's just got more tools like head kicks and spinning. He's more explosive than Usman. Usman's a little bit more conventional, but a great fight. Well done, Usman. Looked fantastic. I would still watch that fight again. I felt Burns accounted himself well, but there's enough in it for him to think, okay, I could go back and do a better job again.
Yeah. I did because I have to go back and I have to research sort of these fighters beforehand. You have a bit more knowledge on kind of what to expect. And when I went into the fight, I think, and I'm just going to share my ignorance.
Please.
I didn't. So I looked at it as sort of a one-sided thing from what I was reading and seeing between Gilbert Burns and Usman. Usman was Burns is an impressive character. Usman reminds me of if Anthony Joshua were to be the dominant boxer he could be, Usman would be his sort of counterpart in MMA. He's doesn't really get too involved in the chatter too much, but he will. He's a very sort of, A-type personality, respectful person. He is a specimen. He is a beast. And he's just got that knockout punching power. And when I watched his fights and I watched Burns' fights, and I went back into their history and looked at sort of their wins. And if you look at Usman, he wins a lot by technical knockouts and knockouts. And when I looked at their skill set, if you look at sort of them on paper, Burns is definitely a grappler. I think it's wrestling jiu-jitsu, whereas Usman, his forte on the UFC website is wrestling. But he's a very good boxer. And I think Burns was a much better boxer than I expected him to be on the night, even from the other fights I've seen. Because a lot of his wins, he doesn't win by knockout much at all when you look at the fight notes or if you watch the fights. There's a lot of he has a lot more attempted takedowns, a lot more attempted submissions, whereas you see a lot from Usman, get him on the ground and then pound him to oblivion. So I was surprised at the start of the fight to see it almost looked to me, he's not knowing Usman. My initial thought was it kind of reminded me of the start of the fight that Chandler won, where Gilbert seemed to have Usman sort of on the ropes a bit, and Usman seemed a bit tentative or sort of unsure how to take on. It was almost like he didn't want to hit his mate. And I know that's not the case, but that was just sort of the thing that was bounding around my head. And as the fight started, Gilbert was really just the combinations he was landing, and what Rogan was saying on the broadcast was Gilbert he thought he had better combinations, or he was a better combination boxer as far as his punching and kick combinations. And as the fight went on, I think that was the one thing I noticed you mentioned was that where he had him down on his knee, and there was two things that were happening. I thought Usman didn't want to entertain. There was that period where he was sort of staying on his back, trying to invite Usman down, and Usman was, and I thought at first, and I hadn't thought about that until you said that. I thought Usman, having trained with him, felt like if I go on the ground with Burns, I thought at the time he was worried that that was the only spot where Burns had maybe not an advantage, but they were on equal standing because of the reach.
Probably had an advantage. Yeah.
I didn't think about the rest element though, because that played massively into it. Because there was a good 1 minute, maybe 2 minute period in that fight. It was a long time where where he was just standing there and he was able to get his shit together during that time. And I think Burns probably would have been better getting up and just starting to throw combinations.
Can I add a couple of points there, Sean? Because I agree with you. So the rest element too, he actually made Burns back up, which you never see. So on the floor, normally, if the ref would stop, you heard the ref because he'll normally call it. If nothing's really happening, he'll say, right, get up then. Either get on top of him and do something or allow him to get up. So the ref did say something, take some action. He kind of did this little like, come on. But Usman was doing enough like punching in, and he actually caught Gilbert a couple of times, and Gilbert backed up and was like, oh, I saw that, yeah. So the other thing that oh damn, what was I going to say? I lost my head. I have a really good point here. Damn it, I can't remember what I was going to say. There was two really important factors. So being on the ground.
Well, I said I got the impression.
Sorry, I've got it, mate. Sorry, I've got it. It's also the psychology from the judge's point of view. So Usman got hit down and got back up again, but then they're seeing Gilbert on his back on the floor, and Usman is at that point dictating. I'm kind of telling you where I'm going. So it looks like he had a minute and a half of dominant positioning. So that was something that was swaying the round in his favor for that factor. So he had the rest element. It looks dominant. And actually, he started, and it looked extra dominant when he got Gilbert to back up. So that was so clever because Usman was in trouble when he got rocked. And that it could have finished there, and we would have been... That could have happened, and we would have been just singing Gilbert's praises. So yeah, I have to give that was like real champ play, the way he mapped that out.
Yeah, the turnaround was which I read and I actually heard in a few of the post match interviews that Usman gets stronger as the fight goes on. So there was an expectation if he got through that first round, which I didn't know this watching the fight. I'm still learning the characters that he was in good shape, as it was going to be harder for Burns to get a foot in. And I think at that point, that's when you saw Usman really start to change things up a bit. He was a bit more the aggressor, I think, for the second and third round. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I thought actually there's fair point that he could have won all three. Although Gilbert really did do a great job in round one as well. I felt that I thought he
won round one. I thought Burns won round
Gilbert.
No, I thought he did.
Yeah, well, I think it could have gone both ways with the judges' side of things, with seeing him on the ground and getting backed up a little bit. I think it was a very close round. That's one of those ones I'd say I wouldn't be, if they said, oh no, it was Usman, I don't think you'd be disgusted by that. He wasn't robbed, but 2 and 3 were a lot more one-sided. Actually, Gilbert was getting beaten up at the end of 2, and I felt hadn't recovered enough from round 2 when he came into the third round. One thing I'll add as well, Sean, for a little bit of context on this, is that Kamaru Usman isn't a particularly popular champion, although now he has broken a record. He's renowned as a little bit of a boring fighter, a little bit more like Mourinho, just a tough guy. He comes in, he's got a bit of a conventional boxing style. It's not that exciting. He doesn't really kick. And then with some people, he just grabs a hold of them and ragdolls them and beats them up. He doesn't really there's no flashy knockouts. There isn't much panache, but he's just this dogged guy. You just basically don't want to get in a fight with him. And he just churns out results. Now, I think a result like that today, and seeing a little bit more of what he has in his arsenal with the kicks coming out, and he wasn't going down the grappling game. He was stood out, and his jab looked phenomenal.
He didn't want anything to do with the grappling game. That's where I thought he wasn't necessarily being the aggressor. I thought in the first round, Usman was not, of course, not nervous to go in, but was not willing. It was almost as if Burns was trying to get Usman to come down to his level, and Usman was not taking that opportunity. And I didn't feel like he was being the aggressor necessarily. I thought they were both not being the aggressor at that stage. They were both trying to pull each other into the game that they were trying to play.
I think Gilbert backs him. Like, this is another thing about MMA as well. You might see this in future, is that Gilbert is a world-renowned grappler. Like, with regards to jiu-jitsu, former world champ, he knows what he's doing. You don't want to mess around with a guy like that. Technically, you don't want to be getting wrestling with someone like that.
Yeah.
And then on the stand-up game, you learn some stand-up, and he becomes quite accomplished. And then they get like, it's this new exciting thing they're doing on the side, and they want to showcase their skills because they're learning this new skill. And you'll get grapplers that learn some boxing that have got a really good right hand or something. They'll just have a technique that's really good, or a good like high kick or something, and they'll just want to show that off. And I'm not saying that happened here. I expected Gilbert to go in and kickbox with Kamaru, but it would have been interesting to see. And this is where I love fighting, because can you imagine, Sean, already what would happen in matchup number 2? What would Gilbert Burns do differently? Now, would we see Gilbert again keep the pressure on like he did at in round 1, but be a little bit more measured? And 2, would you think it would make sense to do more takedowns? Not that he'll take Usman down, because he's a tank and he might not be able to do that, but get into that grappling exchange and get a hold of him to try and instigate some jiu-jitsu. So that's what would be interesting to see. But I'm not surprised with Gilbert with his stand-up, because he's got a lot of power and speed, and he's knocked legit people out. So,
the fact that he got in, the fact that he was able to get that close that early on, surprised me from what I've seen from the other Kamaru fights. I watched the Covington fight, and what really impressed me about Usman were the creative combinations he was throwing, and how well he disguised, his jabs, and he was able to get a lot of those punches in, by baiting and switching which hand he was going to throw. And I thought, as a boxer, I think I was surprised when I saw the fights and then read that he was a wrestler first, because I thought Usman looked every bit a world-class boxer. And when I looked at the history of takedowns in Burns, I thought Burns was going to want to. I was surprised that fight was starting as a boxing match. I thought Burns was going to be trying to get them onto the ground and try to mitigate some of that skill and some of that reach he had. So fair play to Burns, being able to land those punches. And I think had he remained the aggressor, it definitely would have been a different outcome. I think he could have finished it in that first round. He was definitely rocked. And I remember thinking, why is he spending so much time on his back? Because every second he was on. I mean, I guess that was from my end as an ignorant fight fan. I didn't quite understand the thinking behind that.
It wouldn't have been even, because you mentioned you felt it might be evenly matched. It wouldn't have been evenly matched. Kamaru knew that if he played that game, Gilbert can absolutely tap him out, and he knew that from what we saw was evidence that that's happened in the gym. So he respected his grappling to the extent that he didn't want anything to do with grappling. So he knows that if he plays that game, he may be able to stop Gilbert, but you know what? He might not. Whilst in a stand-up situation, he backed himself on enough to like, I can kind of I can outbox and kickbox this guy, and he almost didn't have that. Like he was close to losing that fight in the first round.
Yeah, but that change of dominant hands and I didn't think about it this way as well. What I heard a few of the announcers saying, by changing his stance, by changing his dominant hand, he put his strong arm forward as his jab, which really prevented, I think, Burns from getting in. He had that jab was pretty much doing damage and playing defense all at the same time. And I think Burns had a hell of a time finding a way in. And as soon as he landed a few of those jabs, I think that changed everything. I think from that point on, Burns was just didn't really have an answer for that change. And I don't know if that's something maybe he didn't do that in training with Burns.
Again, I'm not an expert with stand-up. This is a level that I don't know as much about. But when you're standing like with your left arm forward, you have to be positioned. You have to move your body so that you're off center. And if you're changing stance, then you'd position yourself to the other side. So you've always got to be off center with the opponent. So if they change footing, that puts you off to the other side, and now you're worrying about a different combination. So it is more complicated than people give credit as well. Like when you're used to, when you already start out and you're just going orthodox versus orthodox, you could get used to that, and then you throw a southpaw in it. You're like, oh, this is all backwards. This is weird. It is strange. Now, I'm also going to say something slightly controversial, perhaps, in that I don't think Kamaru Usman yet is. I don't think his blessing is that he's so talented at boxing. I think his blessing is that he has a fantastic reach and he is super powerful. So if he's catching you, you are gonna feel it. So I'm not saying that he's not technical and not a good boxer. I'm just saying that I don't think it's his technique which really stands him head and shoulders above everyone else. I think he has that extra reach advantage, and there's power and pop at the end of it. So if you get caught by it, like, look out. I don't see him piecing up, the best stand-up people in MMA. Like Israel Adesanya, I think would eat him alive in a stand-up. But Usman, for that weight division in particular, is super powerful, and his technique is good. And with Trevor Whitman, it's only going to go one way. Trevor is going. You'll see a better and better version of him in the next two fights with the stand-up technically now. And if he keeps his power as well, he's always got that wrestling to go to. He's a powerful force. And the thing about this fight that's made it interesting is that Gilbert Burns had the stand-up to trouble Usman, which we saw in the first few minutes. But he also had the grappling. He had that edge. Now, I'm thinking of the other fighters in the division. It's tough to say, like Kobe Covington rematch, but I'm struggling to see someone that's going to really push Usman. Gilbert Burns was the man.
I've read something about this, and I also heard was listening to ESPN as well. So right now, ESPN was trying to get Colby Covington and Jorge Masvidal to do the Ultimate Fighting Championship. Masvidal doesn't want to do this. He's not really keen. I think it's not just what they're saying. Apparently, Masvidal, and you may know this better than I, Masvidal and Covington were roommates at one time. There's actual bad blood.
They were really
not
close.
Just two competitors.
Yeah.
And Masvidal doesn't want anything to do with it. He wants to fight him, but he doesn't want to go through the admin of having to coach. He just wants to fight him. Now Usman, which I really respect this. So this is a guy at the top of his game who he's now won 13 straight. I think there's only 7 other fighters that have done that, and there's one other fighter, Diaz.
That's unbelievable.
Who's done more. So he's at a point where he's at the top of his game, and he's actually called out more or less Masvidal for a fight. Now, what some people think may happen, that this may, because the fight wouldn't happen anyway till July. And people from Usman's camp have said that this may be possible. They may be looking at Usman Masvidal being in the ESPN Ultimate Fighter Championship as coaches, and then ultimately fighting each other in July. Now, I haven't watched The Ultimate Fighter. I've seen bits of it, and some of it looks a little bit too reality TV for me.
It is.
But the idea of the fights I'm interested in watching. And the thing I find interesting is when I watch the Usman fights, I have a lot of respect for Masvidal when he took on Usman when the Burns fight was called due to COVID. So I haven't read much about Masvidal. I understand he's a vet. He's a good fighter. He's been around for 15 years or something along those lines.
He's unbelievable.
And he, in that fight, he looked like having very little preparation, 2 weeks to prepare. He looked like he could, he looked like he belonged in that fight. And it was Usman won, but it wasn't necessarily like, it kind of left me thinking I'd like to see this fight happen if they both had time to prepare.
With a full training camp. Yes,
and
correct.
Full credit to Usman. Usman has identified this, and he's so driven, I think, to be the best. He wants to make sure when he's beating people, he's properly beating him. And he probably felt like apparently he had a broken nose, Usman, going into that fight against Masvidal. Didn't tell anybody.
I didn't know that.
So
okay.
So going into that fight, Usman broke his nose about 10 days before. And during the fight, or it was after the fight doctor said to Usman, "You broke your nose in this fight." He's like, "No, it was already broken going into it." So he had some mitigating circumstances that might have impacted the outcome. But he wants to take on a healthy Masvidal. Masvidal is a great fighter in his own right, and I think he wants to kind of put this whole question mark about his legacy behind him, because I did read that there are people that don't find him as a popular champion, and I think beating Masvidal would be a good step. And the fact that he's calling him out, I have a lot of time for him. I'm really impressed with that. So that's what I have. That's my research. That's what I have found, and I'd be interested to see that, because that Covington fight, man, I would have loved to have watched that live. That I watched that fight, the Covington Usman
amazing.
fight, after all the trash talk. That was an incredible fight.
Kobe broke his jaw with the jab. You see it, like he had his mouth open and he just kind of took his jaw to the side, and he went in after a couple of rounds saying, our jaw was broken. And
he went back out again too.
He kept on going, but like Kamaru made that. It's not like, oh, he was unlucky. No, Kamaru broke his jaw. So that's credit to Kamaru. And they're both wrestlers. Kobe his energy is like, I think, almost unparalleled. He does not get tired. So Kamaru wore him down, which was unbelievable. But let's just touch very briefly on the Masvidal thing, Sean, because Masvidal is he is about as technically good as it gets on his feet. He's like silk on his feet, and you saw that in glances with the Usman fight. I don't know if you watched the whole thing, but you can just see the contrast between how he took on Burns and how he took on Masvidal. He didn't want anything. He didn't want to be playing around with Masvidal on his feet because he knew what Masvidal could do. So he just wanted to grab a hold of him because he knew that Masvidal, although can hold his own on the ground, he can submit people. He has some technique. His strength really lies in the stand up. So he wanted to nullify that by getting to the ground and just like to beat up on him, like make it a boring fight. But what you said is what everyone said. It's like fair play to Masvidal taking out on such short notice and just keeping that main event. And actually, let's be frank, people are probably more excited about that than they were about Burns. But we just want to see Masvidal go at it with a full training camp. And that face there, the game bred, he's got almost like a religion. People love Masvidal because he's just that cheeky, kind of clever. He's just got style and flair. And he's a great talker. He used to fight on the streets and had videos of him along with Kimbo Slice. So he's a legit gangster. Like he's a badass. So seeing him have a full training camp, he's going to cause Kamaru a lot of trouble. But again, I still see the same thing kind of happening. I still see Usman weathering the Masvidal storm and getting him down and beating him up. But I would still be very excited to watch it.
We'll see if the ESPN Ultimate Fighting thing does come to fruition. But that'll be fun. I mean, it would be a good one for me to get involved in because I haven't watched a ton of Masvidal. My introduction to Masvidal was the preparation for the Askren video we did. Because I think it was Masvidal that had the fastest knockout in UFC history with that double knee jump within the first 2 seconds. And a lot of the fights I've seen, he's very entertaining to watch because he's very acrobatic with some of the flying knees he does, and it's very good TV. Masvidal, watching him fight.
He for the uninitiated, he's great, but for the initiated, he's actually undervalued at how technical he is. He's like Conor. The people are like, oh, he talks a lot of shit. You're like, no, Conor is just amazing on his feet. Like these two, he's up there. He's a great boxer. He's very skilled. So, yeah, I would love to see that. And I love Masvidal. I just love watching him. I always tune in.
So I guess the next fight's coming up. I watched the, if we look outside of Usman, Masvidal, I guess, do you see a world where Burns takes on Covington?
Yeah, I mean, so I think what was going ahead was Leon Edwards, who's from, I think, the Birmingham streets of UK. He's on a great win streak. He's won 9 or so. He was due to take on, let's go to it and I can point them out. So Leon Edwards was going to face this Hamzat Chimaev. If you scroll down, I don't know if it'll go past the top 10. I don't think it will, actually. Oh, it does.
Yeah, there it is. He's top 15.
So yep. Leon Edwards is this much of a gangster? This Chimaev is beating the crap out of people. This Chimaev is like, he's like Khabib. He fights like Khabib. He fights in 2 weight classes. He's fought in welterweight and he's gone up and fought in middleweight. And he fought in 2 fights in 10 days and beat the crap out of both people. And it's never been done before. He's a scary guy, like this Chimaev. Now, Leon Edwards, he's ranked number 3, and he agreed. No one wanted to fight this guy. Chimaev's like, I'll fight all of you. I'm gonna rip you all up. I'm gonna beat you. Now, Chimaev versus Usman, like that will be fascinating. So,
can I stop you for a second?
Yes,
17 seconds. Did he? Yeah. Is this saying he won his fight against Mearshart in 17 seconds, or is that 17 seconds remaining in the round?
Yeah, no, he beat him in 17 seconds. Yeah. This Mia chart as well is like he's a like a wily vet basically. Like he's no joke, and Chimaev is like, you just watch his interviews, Sean. He's got this like, yeah, no problem, I smash him, and he doesn't say anything. He's just like, he has no emotion but when he gets in the ring, he turns into an animal. Like, and he's like Khabib. He's like a backpack. He hugs them and takes their soul away from them. That McGee fight and also Phillips. Look at the date on that, from the 15th to the 25th.
Wow.
He beat the crap out of them in 10 days. 2 fights in 10 days, never been done, in 2 different weight classes. And you're talking about not a weight class like, oh, it's extra 5 or 10 pounds. He went from 170 to 185, 15 pounds, over a stone difference. So Leon Edwards has agreed to take on this animal, and then that's fallen through. Chimaev has pulled out again, I believe. So they're talking about Leon Edwards potentially with Kobe, which will be hell of a fight. That will be very interesting. Leon needs a big name. He deserves that. Michael Chiesa's gone on a good rampage as well at the moment, so he's going to be throwing himself in the mix. Yeah, so you suggested there, Sean, was it Gilbert Burns versus Colby? Is that correct?
Well, Burns has now gone up as the number 1 challenger. Covington. So this is me reading the tea leaves with my sort of limited time in. Covington is probably due a big fight, and Burns is probably going to want another fight to show he belongs up there. And I didn't know if Covington would be somebody that he would want to take on just to sort of cement himself as that number 1 challenger. But I don't know how this works. That was my first thought.
So Gilbert Burns he said in his post-fight press conference, he just wants to fight as soon as possible. So he's just want to get it. He'll get in there with anyone, and he'll fight anyone. Covington hasn't fought since, I believe, actually. Can you do a quick Google, Sean? I don't believe Kobe's fought since Usman.
Well, we can see here if we just click on.
Or has he had one more? I can't remember if there's been one.
See what his if he wins. I wonder if Trump wins the election. I wonder if that sort of propels him.
He is funny. Oh yeah, it was Woodley. Yeah,
I watched the Usman fight, and I thought Usman dismantled Woodley from the fight that I saw.
Covington did as well.
Well, I thought, they both did.
And they had history as well. He's talked a lot of crap to Woodley. Woodley's like, this is my redemption fight. Kamaru took Woodley's belt, and Woodley was like, I'm like, I felt for Covington. Like, this is going to be a tough fight, but he wiped the floor with Woodley. So he's back on the trail now. That was September. Now, Burns is likely to serve a suspension. There's a medical suspension. He's been beaten up and knocked out. He's probably going to be out for 6 months. That's like automatic. Usman, I'm not sure what the damage. I didn't see his post-fight press conference, so I'm not sure. I think he looked okay, though, to be fair. Although
he looked fine to me. Yeah. I mean,
he had a concussion.
He's probably going to be taking it easy for the next week, because he was rocked quite a few times in that first round.
Sure. Yeah.
So I'd be curious to see, because I think right now, if they're talking, if let's say what ESPN is saying is true, if the Usman camp and the Masvidal camp are interested in the ESPN Ultimate Fighting Championship, that means that he's got until July anyway. And if both parties are ready for that, then that will happen if they're interested in that.
I think you're right. I think that's the one that makes sense. Dana mentioned it in his post-fight press conference, so that's like Dana's got a big sway. I think that's where he wants it, because it's going to be a money fight, because everyone tunes in for Masvidal, and it's a good story. It's a redemption. Now Kamaru has shown his cards. He's shown his hand to Masvidal. Now it's on Masvidal. How is he going to show up? Because he's already had 5 rounds of getting ragdoll. Is he going to work on defense? Is he going to do things differently? So this is where it gets really interesting. And he's got a full camp, so it's a new question mark.
Yeah.
So your point on Burns is going to be out for 6 months. I think Covington versus Leon makes a lot of sense, and that's likely to come through. And I think then you're looking at the winner of that to be maybe taking on a winner of potentially Masvidal versus Usman, with then Gilbert Burns is going to want the scrap, depending on what comes off the back of that, maybe fighting one of those two, maybe Masvidal or maybe the loser out of Colby and Leon.
Yeah, I could see him taking on somebody else before he takes on Usman. So if let's say
I think
Covington
so.
and Edwards go on, I would want to
Tend
see
to do that.
Yeah, well, even just to get, I mean, if Usman is as good, he has proven to be as good as he is. I think Burns would want to get a fight with one of these two guys before he would get in with Usman. But I think either way, it'll be interesting. And the more we do this, the more I'm learning about these characters. It's really helping me get an idea on how good they are. We have coming up not too long UFC 259, and I think we should do a preview in the next week or two at the very latest, which is Adesanya, who right now is number 1 in middleweight, is taking on Blachowicz. Am I saying that right?
Jan Blachowicz. Yeah.
So this is interesting. What's the weight difference between these two? And actually, why don't I do this? Because I think we'll just do a mini little
20
preview
pounds
for this. So hold on.
Yeah.
And yeah. Why can't they
Israel's
have names?
185. It's in the 185 is middleweight, and light heavyweight's 205. So 20 pounds difference. So it's a big step up.
So when and this is maybe for me and for any of our listeners who are like me, who are just starting to get into this. So how do these fights, I guess, come to pass? So my understanding is you can fight anybody as long as you don't go overweight for that division, for that fight.
So yeah, this is where it's a little easier with MMA and the UFC in particular, because they hold all the cards, they hold all the rights to the fighters. So the fighters have to sign the contracts. They could say, I'm not going to fight that guy, or I want to fight him. But Dana White wants to make money. He's a promoter. So him and the matchmakers will have a look at what they think are going to sell tickets and what makes sense. So these rankings come into account. But in a lot of cases, they've been ignored. Like you see Masvidal versus Usman, everyone's talking like that's going to happen. But you're like, well, why would Masvidal leap Edwards and Covington? Well, Covington's fought him and lost. Burns is now lost. Edwards, you could say, has a claim to fight Usman. And from a rankings perspective, you think that's fair enough. However, everyone loves Masvidal and they're going to tune in. And he came in at last minute and he showed some flashes of what he can do. But a lot of us want to see him with a full training camp. So he'll jump the queue because it will sell tickets. So Israel Adesanya is a stand-up kickboxer. He used to fight. He's had like something like over 80 professional kickboxing fights. He's so fluid and elusive. Maybe arguably the best MMA stand-up fighter we've ever seen. So he's beautiful to watch, and he has wiped out that division. He's taken out the top two. Whittaker and Costa are phenomenal. He beat them both quite comfortably, and he's beating a lot of the guys below that as well. So he's looking for a new challenge. He's talking about he wanted to fight the ex-champion John Jones at the weight above, and they're about the same height, but Adesanya is 20 pounds lighter. He's skinnier. John Jones, who cleaned out that division, is going up to heavyweight. So now Adesanya wants a new challenge. So he's saying, I'm going to go up 20 pounds and beat the champion there. Which we'll see if he may even go up to heavyweight. He's said he's going to clean out all the divisions and go up to heavyweight.
Adesanya.
So, yeah, and it's fascinating to see, right? You're like, well, how's he going to get on with 20 pounds? 20 pounds is a lot of weight. So how's he going to get on with Jan? Yeah, it's going to be interesting because Jan's a heavy hitter, but I can't see him out kickboxing Adesanya. He's so good attacking and defense at standing up. Actually, Israel Adesanya's worst nightmare is going to be someone like John Jones, who can grab a hold of him and drag him down. So, yeah, but I've got on a little tangent there, Sean. But how does that happen? Basically, Israel will talk shit and talk about fighting John Jones and other people and suggest going up in weight classes, and they'll see what's going to make sense. There isn't anyone that's going to be exciting now for Israel to take on in the middleweight division. So they're trying to make it exciting because think about it. He goes up to light heavyweight and he beats Jan. He's now a 2-weight champion. He's a big ticket item. There'll then be the follow-on. Oh, will Jones come back down and fight him or not? Or he goes up to light heavyweight and loses. And now Jan Blachowicz is going to be like a legit champion that's beaten this guy that's amazing on his feet. So you've kind of made a champion there as well.
So would the same happen with so let's say Usman goes on and beats Masvidal, beats, let's say, Covington beats Edwards. There's going to be a rematch of Covington. Let's say he's beating all of these people. Would he then be looking to do the same thing, jump the queue for Adesanya? Or, I mean, is that, and would I be correct in saying that that's going to be pretty much, you know, created by the fighter themselves floating the idea? So is Adesanya floating these ideas and Dana White hearing that saying, yeah, we could do that?
Correct. Yeah.
So Usman could say, look, I want to be the best.
Correct. And Dana said before as well with people, yeah, sorry, man. I think there's a slight delay. You can just finish your point and I'll cut in.
I was going to say, so Usman could simply say, I want to be the best welterweight, and, you know, not suggest or not even float the idea of going to middleweight. But equally, if he were to say, look, I want to take on this person in middleweight, or I want to take on Adesanya, then that's something that would prompt Dana White to consider that fight.
Yeah, so absolutely, and Dana White has some sway on it because he may want someone to stay in a weight division because it's like for dominance as well, especially if there are some exciting fights to come up. I think with Usman, like whether or not he'd go up, I think he's gonna that step up in weight class is horrible from 170 to 185, 15 pounds. That's a stone for UK weight. That's a big jump.
Yeah.
And Israel Adesanya is 6'4", Sean. He's a big bloke, and he's going to cause Kamaru on his feet all types of nightmares. And you look at Usman looks stacked, doesn't he? Right? Just have a look at Paulo Costa. Click on Paulo Costa. I mean, this guy used to actually do bodybuilding as well. Probably not even his best shot there, but he's not got an ounce of fat on him. He's 15. He's a stone heavier. So I mean, you're looking. These are, you know, someone like a couple of inches taller than you, and he's got 15 pounds of muscle on you. It's like, you know, his strength now, which is his jab is powerful. Again, I don't think he's technically gifted. I think he's powerfully gifted, and his wrestling is superior. Well, these guys are bigger than him. So is he going to be able to ragdoll them around? He loses a lot of his strengths, is my point. And he's not really in a position where he can drop from 170 to Khabib's weight, which is 155, because that's 15 pounds.
Yeah.
Could you see Usman stripping 15 pounds? Like, no, he's going to have to be muscle. Yeah. So I think Usman, the other side of it, Sean, is that Usman might want to cement his position in the division. So he may want to go on and break records. Like George St. Pierre is reputed to be one of the most dominant champions in history, maybe the best of all time. So he may want to then beat his legacy and become number one. Have I lost you, buddy? Hello, Shauno. I've talked you away. I think we lost Sean, everyone. I'm just going to check my...
I'm back.
Yeah, here he is.
Sorry.
I was wondering what happened to you then, mate.
I was on the wrong screen because I start swapping between screens here. And you were saying... Yeah, no. I wanted to hear, because you were talking about stripping weight. Usman may want to cement himself as welterweight, you were saying. And I was going back to look at Khabib, and instead of going back, I canceled the stream. So continue.
So yeah, some people just want to cement the weight and just stay there and just be the most dominant champion of that weight class. Some people, Israel Adesanya is a special person. He's like the Conor McGregor. He's one of the biggest people in the whole. Like he'll fight anyone as well. So he wants to be a multiple weight champion. I'm not hearing or sensing that Usman does. The way Usman fights is conventional. He'll get the job done, and I think he's just going to wipe out the entire welterweight division. I don't see him wanting to go up to middleweight because his strengths are going to be nullified up there. If he does, that's brilliant, and I'm going to tune in. But I don't see him causing the trouble that, say, Adesanya, who needs to put on 20 pounds, but you can still see whoever he fight. He's 6'4", so he's going to take on 260-pound man in the heavyweight division, and he's going to cause trouble because he's so elusive. Yeah. So the athlete will determine it, but Dana White will also encourage people to stay on if there are some exciting matchups to be had. And he'll also encourage people to go up or down in a weight class if he feels there's a big super fight to be had.
So would I be correct then in saying Khabib is somebody, if we talk about Khabib in lightweight, because there's a lot of the stuff I've read about Khabib looking for a challenger, wanting to find, you know, the right challenger, and there is no one out there. Khabib being somebody who wants to just cement, because of the size disparity, wants to stay lightweight, will not be going up a weight to take on a new challenge.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like Khabib's going to retire, which is really sad because it would be fascinating to go and see him up at welterweight, because I think he's so dominant at 15 pounds below that I think he would, I mean, who would not want to see him versus Kamaru? Those two beasts go after each other. That would be fascinating. So of course there's a challenge there. But it looks like he was trying to hold out for GSP. He was one of the all-time greats, and GSP still trains every single day. You look at him and he's in phenomenal condition still. But it doesn't look like that fight will potentially happen as well. So, yeah, I don't think it's the challenge side of it. I think, well, the challenge isn't there for lightweight anymore, apart from maybe Charles Oliveira because of jiu-jitsu. But who could deny the fact that going up a weight class would be a challenge? But I think he just doesn't want to fight anymore because that's what he promised his mum, and that's really important to him.
Yeah. Well, we got, I think in a couple weeks, we will do a preview of Adesanya Blakovic.
Hello, mate. Have I lost you, or is there a big gap?
I think there's a gap. So we just need to be, for anybody watching, just be wary. There's going to be probably about a 2 to 3 second gap at times. So apologies for that. But we will have to preview Adesanya and Blakovic. Correct me if I'm saying that name wrong. It would be nice if some of these UFC fighters would have easier names to spell and say for the uninitiated. But I will learn. We'll grow. So Hugh, till then, shall we move forward with the Premier League picks? And I will wait silently for your answer.
Yes.
All right. So, like I said, everybody,
it.
we're going to be coming back to Adesanya Blakovic in the next couple of weeks. We may have a few other follow-ups if anything happens. I know that there's a story that I'm tracking about possibly the Logan Paul Mayweather fight being canceled. God willing, it will be. I have no interest in that fight whatsoever. And I honestly don't want to pay a dime for that. But let's keep an eye on that. And don't know what you think, Hugh. I don't want to just give my opinion and leave it at that. Any thoughts before we move on to the Premier League picks?
Same as you.
It's such a waste. It's I don't want to give Mayweather.
Yeah, no, same as you, buddy. Let's go on to the Premier League.
Okay, let's get it done. So we're going to set up our intro for Premier League picks, and we're going to show you how you can join us on our picks. So on to the intro. All right, Premier League picks. So as we said, Hugh is doing quite well. He's 4-0 and I'm 2-2. And what I thought we would do to start, we want to get people involved who are watching. We actually do have, in this short period of time, we've got 9 subscribers already, which is way faster than our Bearded Philosophy channel. And the thing I love about sport is we can involve people. We can involve people in picks. And I want to make sure that any of the subscribers who are participating in our Premier League picks, we're highlighting those winners every week, who's leading, who's not. And we also are going to have to talk about our competition internally as well. So why don't we bring that up, Hugo? Let's take a look at how things are progressing, but let's show people how they can log on. Okay. And that is me, Hugh, trying to multitask. That is dead air, and that is my fault. Let me bring that up. I thought I had. I thought I had the fantasy sports thing brought up. I guess I didn't.
Well, as you're bringing that up, I'm
just
I do.
Here, just
to let you know that United are 1-0 down to West Brom, mate.
Are they really? You wanted to pick against
down.
them, yeah.
Yeah, I
33 minutes.
You think that United? Yeah, so it's still before half time, but I'll keep an eye on that as well. Keep you posted.
All right. So for everybody who is watching or who is viewing, who is subscribing or who will be subscribing, we are going to be we've started a fantasy league, and Hugh, there is an app for it as well. So ESPN Fantasy Sports. The reason we've gone ESPN Fantasy Sports is simply it's the most accessible website worldwide, most accessible app worldwide. We are aware that not every one of our viewers, subscribers is located in the UK or in the US, and ESPN offers us the opportunity to compete with anybody who wants to join us. So to join the fantasy league, go to the ESPN fantasy page. On the ESPN fantasy page, you will pick it's called the Premier League picks, I believe it is. So here it is, English Soccer Pick'em. Sorry. So it's the English Soccer Pick'em. And when you pick, right now, Hugh has taken his first loss. You can see here that Hugh, who in grandpa fashion has given himself the dubbed ESPN fan 75518141145 picks name. I'm Bearded Sean. So Hugh, if you do get a chance to update to Bearded Hugh, that'd be great.
I'm not changing that for shit.
But if we take a look at week 25, which isn't up yet, but essentially what you have the option to do. So I'm going to go into mine actually, which I think I can go into week 25. It gives you the option to pick. Now, one thing you and I learned, it's not the most evolved piece, but it is simple enough, and it is something we can work with. So you get to pick whether the favorite's going to win or whether the underdog is going to win or draw. So it's similar to match betting in a way where you can choose whether somebody is going to win or not going to win, essentially. So we're choosing for or against the favorites. And each week, Hugh and I are going to be going through what we think is going to happen for next week. And then we're going to talk about the matches that maybe we disagree on. All makes sense, Hugo.
That makes perfect sense to me.
Okay. And what I'll do actually is let me just show on screen the picture of the app so you know what to look for. So it is the ESPN app, ESPN Fantasy app. So I use this also for, let me make sure we can get a good view of it here. Is it going to focus?
Go to the other camera, Sean, and make it a little larger.
The other camera?
Yeah.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah. Let me just put my head on screen.
I couldn't quite make it out there.
Hold on. Let me change it out here. Let me change it out. We got the wrong one in here.
There we go. That might work.
In the driver's seat. Okay. So can we see it here? Is it going to focus? There it is. Oh, we saw it for a split second. Anyway, did not go well. Did not go at all. But if you look up, it's just called
Close
Fantasy
enough.
ESPN with a star. Download the app and our group name. And what I'll do is I'll share the link for the group name on our YouTube channel. So the name of the group is, and let me just go back to the shared screen so we can see what it is. And the group name is, can't remember. Bearded Sports. So if you go in Bearded Sports, follow the link. Bearded Sports is the name of the group. It's a private group. The password are Kings of Beard. So just go ahead and log in, join our private group, Bearded Sports, group password Kings of Beard. So easy that even Hugh could follow it. So we're on the right track there. So Hugh, why don't we go through and quickly have a look at next week's matches, and then let's pick the ones that we differ on. So we're just going to go through. So Hugh, do you mind keeping a note of those ones we differ on, and we can double back and talk about those?
I'm on it, Sean. You lead the way, buddy.
All right. So why don't we start here? So this week, let's just fire through this. Wolverhampton win versus Leeds United win or draw. I'm actually going to say Wolves on that one.
Okay, then I'll go with Leeds. So that's one. That's different.
Okay.
I might actually go for yeah. Go on.
Oh no, what were you going to say?
Or I'd go with. I don't feel Wolves are going to do it. So I think I'll be clicking on the other button.
So
that's the problem. I've got like 2/3 of a chance of winning. I don't think Wolves will do it.
Well, and that's the risk you have to take to score points, though. The more I think about this game, the more I like it. It gives you that opportunity to take that chance and to to predict that you don't think Wolves have it in the tank. United, because in this situation, a point for Leeds is a win in many respects. I think Wolves would be the favorite team. So I do like the setup because it gives you more of a license to go for it instead of just picking the draw or the win. Because a draw, let's say, Southampton against Chelsea, if you were to pick draw, that is very much a win for Southampton. But let's just go down. So I think we'll come back to Wolverhampton, Leeds, Southampton, Chelsea. Would you say Chelsea on that one?
God, I don't know. I think so. I would just really like Southampton as well, and they're at home. I think it's going to be a tough one. I think that Chelsea might find it difficult, and I think there's potentially a draw in that.
So are you saying you're going to say draw for that?
I think so.
I think I'm going to go Chelsea on that one. So that's another one we're different on.
Okay, I'm cool. Yeah.
Okay. Burnley, West Brom. I'm going Burnley. Despite what's happening right now with United.
Agreed. I'm with you.
Liverpool, part of this, which you called this one. This is one of the ones you called. I thought Liverpool were going to bounce back. I'm absolutely shocked to see the direction they've gone. Liverpool, Everton. I'm going to have to stick with Everton, which I didn't think I would do. Last week I wouldn't have said that, but I think Everton is what I'm going to choose, winner or draw.
All right, we got another one because I'm saying Liverpool. They're going to come back. I think they're going to show people, and that might be the game for it.
It depends on. I need to double check if what's his name, Calvert. Oh Christ, I've just blanked on his name. Yeah, if he's back, because I think he's nursing a slight injury right now, and I don't think he's playing today. Fulham versus Sheffield United.
Who cares?
Sheffield United draw. I'm going to say draw.
I'm going to go with you on that. Yeah, let's know that one.
Who cares? West Ham, Tottenham. I'm going to say this is another one that I kind of feel like it's going to be a draw. This isn't a sexy top table matchup, is it? West Ham, Tottenham, where it doesn't look like it. I think I kind of want to say draw. I want to go with West Ham on this one. Not because I think West Ham are going to win, but if I had to choose between the two, West Ham win or draw.
Yeah, I'm with you. I just Tottenham. They're my second favorite team. My dad used to support them. I really want them to do well, but they're just leaking goals left, right, and centre. And West Ham are very hard to beat at the moment. They're not exciting. I think it's going to be a dull match actually, but I would probably go with West Ham or draw. So we'll know that one, mates, as well.
Villa versus Leicester. I think I'm going to go Leicester on this one, given the last performance of Villa that I watched.
And last performance of Leicester. I was very impressed when they turned over Liverpool. Took the chances. I think I'm going to go with you on that one, mate, as well with Leicester. So we'll know that.
Okay. City, Arsenal. I think this is a no-brainer for me. City all day long.
The City get there the win or the draw, which is odd because they are the dominant favourites, that's a strange one, isn't it? But yeah, City with you 100%, mate.
It is weird. Don't quite understand the game yet, but it's all we got. So, United versus Newcastle. What's the score right now of the United Newcastle game?
Let me check it. West Brom game, you mean? Have
they come back yet?
41 minutes. It's 1-0. So we're approaching half time. I've got to go with my team on this one, Manchester United.
Yeah, I think it's actually if they lose to West Brom, I would expect them to beat Newcastle. I could see this being a game that frustrates United, and I could see a draw as possible. But they should comfortably beat Newcastle.
Yeah, incidentally, for those guys that are kind of around for the United West Brom, United are like 69% possession. Although West Brom have had 3 shots and United have only had 1. So United have got the possession, but they're not putting shots on goal. Sorry, Sean, let's continue with the picks.
Yeah, no, that's fine. And then Brighton, Palace. I was really, again, going back to, I watched the Villa game. Brighton looked incredible. And Villa's defense is really good this year, but they had to depend on their keeper to bail them out. That was my claim as an admitted fan. The Villa had the probably best transfer business with Emi Martinez coming in. And again, he won that game. Brighton looked every bit the business, and I think giving the trends, Brighton for me, that's an easy pick.
Yeah, I'm with you as well.
So where do we differ?
Okay, 3 games, Sean. I think they're the first 3. So we're looking at Wolves versus Leeds, Southampton, Chelsea, Liverpool, Everton. So on this one, you were leaning with Wolves. I was leaning with, I think it could be a draw or even Leeds on that. Scrolling down to Southampton, Chelsea. You were looking at Chelsea. I was looking at Southampton. Liverpool, Everton. You were thinking Everton. I was thinking Liverpool.
So why don't we start with Leeds and Wolves? And I think so. Where were you sitting on that in more detail?
Yeah, I just don't think Wolves will win it. Is where my honest answer is, and I'm leaning on the select that button route of either Leeds or a draw. Is truthfully where I'm at. I'm not like steadfast on it being a Leeds win, but I think that's more likely than a Wolves win. So I could also see a draw happening.
I think for me, I think Wolves are still a good side, and they've played quite well recently against better teams. I think Southampton are underrated. They beat Southampton 2-1. And they drew Leicester, beat Arsenal 2-1. And they did have a 1-0 loss to Crystal Palace, but I still look at Wolves. They still have the quality on the side. For me, I think most years, not COVID years, I think they're a better team in general. And I just see Wolves winning this one at home. I see it being close, but I think Wolves not easily, but I think Wolves win this one.
Okay. So we got a matchup for sure anyway.
Yep. And the next one, Southampton, Chelsea. So you think Southampton have enough in the tank to beat Chelsea, who are sitting 5th right now?
Yeah, I think Southampton are a particularly tough team to play, and Chelsea, I'm not 100% convinced with them at the moment. I think this is a potential banana skin for them. Again, if I'm pressing that button, I could absolutely see a draw here, which people would maybe class as an upset for Chelsea. But I think away from home to Southampton, they know how to knock the ball around. Dangerous as set pieces with Ward-Prowse. Yeah, I'll back them.
For me, Southampton, they play well, but they've not. I mean, how have they done? They haven't won. They've lost their last 5.
Poor form.
Yeah, and for me, I see this is where Chelsea does the business, and I think they're going to have a bit more time under the new manager. They're going to have a bit more of those concepts in place, and Chelsea have been winning whilst they've been learning these pieces. So I think they're going to be pretty confident going into that game. We will see what happens on that one. And then did we disagree? We didn't disagree on Burnley West Brom, did we?
Burnley win for both of us. It was Liverpool Everton.
Oh yeah.
So I think this is going to be Liverpool's turnaround. I think they'll raise to their rivals. I think they were unlucky against Leicester because they dominated the vast majority of the game, but they just look so vulnerable at the back. Again, there's another Alisson media of kind of blamed Alisson quite hard. So they're up for the kill at the minute, but I think this is going to be, Everton played very defensive against United. I felt were lucky to get a draw against Man United, and I think Liverpool are going to put them on the back foot and they're going to keep them there.
I think these games, you get these Everton Liverpool games. I think they're always competitive anyway, and I'm surprised that Liverpool. I think, given their form, I thought they were going to turn it around the last few weeks, and given how they've done, I see them losing confidence each week. I don't see them bouncing back. I see this last loss has confused them even more, and I think they're going to be looking at a confusing draw here. I don't think they're going to lose, but I'm almost certain this is going to be a draw, and it's going to be a draw that doesn't provide a lot of answers.
Interesting. Okay, mate. Well, we got a nice 3 picks there to get us going.
Yes, and my screen has just gone out. Can you still hear me?
I can, mate, and I can see yours now. It's just gone out again.
All right. Everything has gone off for me. Technical issues. I have no idea what just happened. Where
you are back.
It's a good thing there we are. I'm back. No. I think I hit a cord or something. So those are our picks for this week. So those are going to be the three that we focus on. Those are going to be the differentiating factors going into next week. So right now you are up, but we still are in the middle of this game week. I think we both picked United this week. So this United West Brom game isn't going to make a difference, is it?
Yeah, you're right. I think we did both selected that. So the one we are on the league itself. We are doing. We're picking all the matches, aren't we? But the betting side of it, this pound is based on the ones that are different. Is that right?
Well, it's going to be anyway because the overall score is going to be indicative of those differences. So the only ones we're really talking about are going to be the ones where we differ. So the league results will match that. So we don't necessarily need to pull those apart and say, okay, let's section these off and see the differentiation. That'll happen in the league table, as we're seeing right here, right now.
That makes sense. Okay, that makes sense. And just to be clear as well, this doesn't include Champions League for the upcoming week.
No, we need to figure out that we're going to have to figure out just a channel league table for us, which is going to be separate from this. This is going to add into it. This is something that people can play along with. We'll have to find some sort of a Champions League fantasy game that we can add on, that we can invite people to join us to play as well. But I think we need to find a way to keep a league table, something that we can update regularly. I did try to look at apps where we could set up our own independent sort of a league thing where we can assign points, but there's nothing. I haven't found anything I quite liked yet. I wanted to do something that wasn't just a spreadsheet, but we'll see. I'll keep looking.
Okay.
If you see anything, then let me know.
I won't look. I'll be I won't be looking, but because I would just use a spreadsheet.
I appreciate your honesty.
I'd use a fucking piece of paper and just have a tally to my picks versus your picks and see who comes out on top. But so yeah, from the technology side of it, I'd prefer that we just don't worry about that and do a spreadsheet. So we'll pick out, say, the Champions League matches, and we'll put a H and an S of what we think it is, and let's tally up the points. Because I just think the more that we have, the more fun we're going to get off the back of it. And Champions League is arguably the biggest football tournament on the planet. And I say that above the World Cup because it's the best football. And I think we're just about to kick off, and it's getting interesting because we've gone out of the group stages. So now we're in the knockouts. So exciting stuff. So I think maybe me and you should have a little chat about putting something in place for our bets and updating the guys this time next week.
Yeah, well, that's going to be on the schedule for next week. We'll have a look at what options we have. We will advertise what we're going to be doing. We'll go over game week 24 in a bit more detail to see where we were right and wrong. Still need to decide what's going to be the next area of conversation, and we'll see what comes to pass in the news. But yeah, I think we've made some good progress today.
Yeah, I think. Look, I'll put it out. I think the Champions League is going to be a great talking point, and I'm sure in the world of sport, you're going to get something that's going to crop up. So we'll find something to talk about. We'll find plenty of things to talk about, I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely Champions League. We'll see if we can get something on fights coming up. I'm going to spend my next few weeks researching Adesanya and Blachowicz. Am I saying Blachowicz right? I haven't actually been corrected on that yet.
I think the Americans say Blachowicz, but I don't know if it's block or black. I don't know.
Close enough.
I think it's the blind leading the blind on that one. It's good enough.
I need you to keep me right and true, because there's going to be people watching this frustrated whenever I speak at the absolute bollocks that are coming out of my mouth. So I want you to catch me whenever I get the simple things wrong, like Blachowicz or Blachowicz. Catch me on that. But if I'm okay, let's keep it going as it is. So yeah, until next week, it looks like we will be on Champions League. We're going to be setting up a fantasy game. We'll be reviewing the picks as we do each week.
Yeah, I will.
And anything else that you want to see, we need to set up our socials for this. We don't have any social media set up for the Bearded Sports channel, but that is coming genuinely. And we'll make sure that you all have that to share. So please do like and subscribe to the channel. So let me make sure we get our mugs up here. So if you can go ahead and like and subscribe to the channel, please join us, join the conversation, and please join our leagues. And then you can join Bearded Sean and ESPN fan 755-1814145's picks each week to see how you compare, and we will make it known if you've beaten us. So again, I'm going to say goodbye now, and Hugh, in about 2 to 3 seconds, we'll say goodbye, and thank you so much, and we will be logging out.
See you, everyone.
Everybody. Take care.